Hello and welcome everybody to this live walkthrough of Elementor beta version 3.15. My name is Ash and I am the community manager here at Elementor, and today I'll be walking you through all of the new features and improvements with the latest beta version. Now, if you have any questions about today's live walkthrough or beta 3.15 in general, please feel free to ask in the chat, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. My colleague Nicholas is there and he will be more than happy to assist you. Now, before we begin, as always, this is a beta version of Elementor and it should not be used on production websites, okay? Its purpose is for testing only. And if you would like to contribute your feedback about this version, please head on over to the official GitHub post and you will find the link in this video's description for that. So what are we going to take a look at today? Now, bear with me while I bring up this. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is we are going to find out how to enable the beta testing feature itself. Okay, so if you've never done it before, there's just a few steps that you need to take to be able to use the beta version of Elementor. Next up, we will take a look at the new taxonomy filter widget, which I am very excited to show you, and I'm sure you're very excited to see as well. Afterwards, we will take a look at the new nested accordion widget, which is the next widget in line for our nested capabilities. And then afterwards, we'll take a look at the enhancements that have been made to the carousel and the loop carousel widgets. And this includes a really helpful offset option and a ton more styling and positioning controls for the navigation and pagination configurations. After that, we'll check out what's new with Elementor AI images. There's a couple of really helpful features that have been introduced in this version. And then finally, we'll take a look at what's changed in the experiments or the features area, whatever you like to call it. I feel like we'll be using both of those terms still at the moment, but we'll take a look at what has changed there. Okay, so just bear with me while I move my screens around to be able to do this demonstration for you all. Just be 1 second. Okay. So I'm going to hide my face so that you can see my screen a little bit more clearly. And if you're interested in using the beta version and testing this out and providing feedback about this version, the new features, etc., you are going to need to enable it and then install those plugins. And this is how you do that. So here we are in the WordPress dashboard, and we need to go to Elementor, and then we need to go to Tools. Once we're in this area, okay, we're going to open up the version control tab that you see at the top here. And then the last option we see here is become a beta tester. Now mine says enabled. However, if this is a new installation, okay, or if you've not enabled this before, it will say disabled by default. So to become a beta tester, we're going to switch this on, and then we're going to save our changes. And now what we want to do is we want to just head back to the dashboard, okay, or the updates area. And you might need to refresh your screen here, okay, but eventually you will see that you have 2 new plugin updates available, okay. And at the moment, those plugins are, once my screen loads, the Elementor Core, so 3.15 Beta 2. I've just highlighted that there for you, okay. And then Elementor Pro 3.15 Beta 1. So with these enabled, okay, you will have access to the new features and improvements in the product. So with our beta versions of the plugin installed, we now want to go back to Elementor, and this time we're going to go to settings, and then we're going to open up the features tab. So this is the experiments and features that I mentioned earlier on. Okay, now I have everything activated. Okay, so I've just selected the activate all. But if you don't want to do that, you only want to test a specific new feature, you are more than welcome to do so. To follow along today, you will need to enable Flexbox Container, the nested elements, the taxonomy filter, and all the way down the bottom here, the loop. Okay, so they are the experiments / features that you will need to enable to follow along with all of my demonstrations today. So once you've done that, just click Save Changes and you are ready to go. So let's head back to the dashboard. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is the new taxonomy filter widget. Now, this is a much awaited feature, okay, and it allows you to filter listings, okay, that are linked to the loop grid widget. This is the only widget that it works with right now, okay, so you need to be using the loop grid widget. Now, I just want to quickly show you my setup, and the demonstration I'm going to do today is with WooCommerce products, okay? So if I hover over the products item in the main menu here and then go to categories, this is the main taxonomy that we are going to demonstrate today, okay? So the product categories. And I just want to quickly show you how I've set this up so you fully understand when I do my demonstration. Now, by default, we see the uncategorized category, okay? This is what's created by default. It can't be deleted. It can be amended, so you could use it for something else. We've left it as it is, but as you can see, there are no products in this category. We then have furniture, tableware, and vases as top-level categories. And underneath tableware, we have a couple of child categories. So we have bowls as the immediate child. And then under bowls, we have really cool bowls. Okay, so there's a couple of, there's some hierarchy here to the categories, how they've been set up. Okay, so this is really important to note. And you can see that each of these does have at least one product associated with it. So none of these categories are empty. The other taxonomy that we're using on this website is tags. We're not using it quite as much, but if I open this up, you can see that we have a tag for chairs and a tag for sets. And each of those tags, okay, is linked to a product. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get into the fun bit. So we're going to open up our shop template today. So just bear with me while I navigate to it. So this is our product archive template. So this template is being displayed on our main shop archive. It's also being displayed on any of our category pages as well. Now, once the Elementor editor has loaded, I will show you what we are working with. So if I scroll down, okay, so this widget here, okay, if I select it, is our loop grid widget, and it is being populated with our products and the product loop template that I've created. And this template is super simple. Okay, it's pulling through the product image, which I'm highlighting here, the product title, the product price, and then an add to cart button like so. So just to confirm, this is the loop grid widget, and this is what we need to be using to be able to use the new taxonomy filter. Okay, so in the elements panel, we can either search for taxonomy or we can search for filter. Okay, but however you go about it, okay, this is the widget that we would like to end up with. So this is the taxonomy filter widget. So let's drop this into our shop template page, and then let's see what we can do with this. So as you can see, not much is happening by default. We need to tell Elementor, okay, what we would like to link this to for it to be able to work. Now, we do only have one loop grid widget on this page. You can see my structure here, and you can see it's pretty simple. We've only got the one loop grid widget there. And when I click this drop-down arrow, you'll see that I see loop grid 1. Now, if we had additional loop grid widgets on this page, we would see loop grid 2, loop grid 3, etc., etc. Okay, but because we only have the one, this is all we see. So let's select that now. And then when we do so, we're presented with more information, or more configuration options, I should say. So the first thing we want to do is set the taxonomy that we would like to filter by. And if I click this drop-down arrow, you can see that we can see all of the taxonomies that are available. So we have product type, visibility, the categories, the tags, and the shipping classes. Now, we're going to keep this simple today, okay, and we're going to work with categories and tags, but if you have custom taxonomy set up, okay, you can, of course, select those as well. But let's select categories and let's see what happens. So here we go. The filter has updated, and now the products have as well. And you can see that we are seeing all top level categories that we just viewed in the WordPress dashboard. So by default, we're seeing all, but we can select furniture. And if we give it a few seconds, okay, the editor will reload and only show us the furniture products. The same is true for tableware. We just wait for this to load. And then obviously the same is true for vases as well. So there we go. Straight away, we've instantly got a filtering option available for our users to play around with, which gives us great control. I'm going to go back to all, and we're going to go through every single setting that we have available. Now, we can set the direction first of all. By default, it will always be horizontal, but if we would like it to be vertical, of course it can be. And this can be changed per device. You'll see that we have the responsive icon here, so we can change it to be vertical for, say, mobile view, and horizontal for desktop and tablet. However you want to configure that, you now have that control. We then have item alignment controls. Now, by default, it's set to center, so I don't need to press this, okay? It is set to center by default, but if I would like it to be displayed on the left-hand side, I can do so. On the right-hand side, I can do so, or I can stretch them out like so. And you'll notice that when I press stretch, okay, I got some more options. Again, by default, center is the default option here, but I can also tell Elementor I would like that text to be pushed over to the left or pushed over to the right, like so. Again, let's keep this simple. Let's just go back to the default center view. Now, if we expand the settings option here, you can see that we can really fine tune our taxonomy filter. So empty items by default is switched off. And you'll remember that uncategorized category that we had earlier on. Okay, we don't really want that showing, do we? So it's going to be hidden by default, but I can turn it on if I want to. Now, you may have other categories that don't have products in them right now, and you may want to show them for whatever reason. Okay, so if that's the case, you have that option here. I'll just remind you, you can't delete this uncategorized category, but you can rename it. So if you would like to use that in any way, feel free to. Let's turn that back off. Our next option, which is super interesting, is for the taxonomy children. So again, this is switched off by default, but if we just keep an eye on our items over here within the editor, when I turn this on, we now see bowls appears. And if you remember correctly, bowls was a child category of our tableware category. And with this enabled, we now see this depth option. So it's very intuitive. Okay, it's only going to show you controls that are relevant to what you have switched on, which is always incredibly useful because we don't want to be inundated with options. But we have this depth option. It will be set to 1 by default. So it will only show the first child category. But if you remember, again, correctly, we also had a super cool bowls category, I think it was called. So if I was to change this to 2, okay, it's now going to show that second child category. Okay, so working down the hierarchy, and I don't have any more, but we can go all the way up to 6 if we would like to. So really, really helpful feature there when it comes to filtering through those child items as well. Let's turn taxonomy children off just to keep this nice and simple. First item is switched on by default, and this is the all option that we see here. Okay, so we can turn that off if we would like to, and if we do that, we only then see the main category titles like so. I'm going to leave that on, and with it on, we can also amend the text that's shown as well. So I'm going to add the word choose before the word all, so we can just say choose all like this. And now we have the number of taxonomies. Okay, this will be empty by default, but for whatever reason, we all have very unique cases of building websites. Okay, you can control how many taxonomies you display here. So if you only want to show 1, just type 1, and it will just show that first taxonomy. If it's 2, then select 2. If it's 3, then select 3. If you leave it empty, it will show them all, which is exactly how I'm going to leave it. And this final option that we see here, okay, enables a horizontal scroll for the taxonomy filter. So if I had lots and lots of categories that were way too wide, okay, for the available space that I have here, I can enable this, okay, and then it will allow the user to horizontally scroll through those items so they don't miss any. Okay, so that's the configuration covered. Let's now take a look at the styling options, and we see everything that we would expect to see here in the Elementor editor. Okay, so we can control every single aspect of the taxonomy widget. So we can control the space between the items using this slider. Okay, we can control the typography that's used, so we can set this to one of our global fonts. We can then do the same with our colors for all three normal, hover, and active states like this. And as you can see, as I hover over those, the text color changes. We can add borders and backgrounds and shadows, border radius. We can add additional padding. Okay, absolutely everything we would expect to see in the styling tab is there for us to really fine tune our taxonomy filters. Now, one last thing I'd like to show you is that obviously we were only able to select one taxonomy. So there may be a case where you need to combine taxonomies, and that's nice and easy to do. So if we just duplicate the filter, it's just a case of adding an additional taxonomy widget into the editor like so. And this time I'm going to choose tags. Okay, and this is going to pull through my tags, which we viewed earlier, which are chairs and sets. Okay, and then if I just minimize the panel, we could choose furniture first of all, and then we could choose chairs afterwards. And then as you can see, it really filters down and only displays the chair like so. So that is our demonstration of the filter taxonomy. As always, yeah, fire away with your questions. I did mention earlier, Nicholas is in the chat, both on Facebook and on YouTube. So feel free to ask away. Even if you're not watching this live, we do follow up on all questions. So feel free to ask away. Okay, so bear with me while I prepare the next demonstration. Okay, so next up we have the new nested accordion widget. So next in line for our upgrades with the nested capabilities is the nested accordion widget. And just like the menu, the tabs, the carousel, okay, we can now use containers within the accordion widget. The HTML is semantic. Okay, we can also do things like specify H1, H2, H3 tags, okay, for the headings. And future versions will also have schema involved as well. So really, really great additions and improvements to this widget. It's important to note that if you're using obviously the old accordion widget, like many of us are, okay, they will continue to function as normal and you will be able to edit them as normal as well. But obviously if you want to upgrade them, you can rebuild them using the new accordion widget. Now we've got lots of controls to go over. So let's get started. Again, I'm just going to share my whole screen with you so you can see what we're working with. And I'm going to jump over to this help and info page. And if you're liking the look of this template, it's one of the kits from our library, okay, the Homewood kit. So I highly recommend you check it out. I really like it. I love the style. It's super easy to work with. But as you can see, here we are on our page, and it's a pretty boring page, okay? It's just a lot of info, okay? It's not the most interesting subject, but a very necessary one for any online store. So we've got shipping and delivery and returns information here. Now, I would like this to be displayed in an accordion. I think it's going to add a much more fun element for the user doing so. Now, let's check it out. Let's search for the accordion widget, and here we are. We're going to drop this into our editor like so. And straight away, you can see that we have a nice empty container, which means we can do absolutely anything we like here. We can drop in more containers. We can add as many widgets as we like here, right? The possibilities are endless. It sounds really cheesy, but it's true. So let's build out our accordion. Okay, so I'm going to give these titles first of all. So let's give the first one shipping and delivery. Second one will be returns and exchanges. And then the third one, we're going to create something new, and it's going to be book a viewing. Okay. And we'll get to that third and final one soon. Okay, so we've set the titles in each of our accordion widgets. So we have 3 of them. Okay, so let's go through what configuration and styling options we have here first of all, and then we'll build out the actual main sections. So the first option we see here is the item position. And again, this can all be controlled through your responsive devices, which is great. Now, by default, it's set to start, but we can tell Elementor we would like it to be in the center, at the end, or we can stretch so that the icon appears on one side and the text on the other. We can specify the position of the icon. So by default, it's set on the left, but we can say we would like it to be on the right-hand side. And if you use that in combination with the stretch option, the icon goes all the way over to the right-hand side like this. We can then fine-tune the icons that we're using, so we can choose a different icon from the icon library for both the plus and the minus symbol, or sorry, the expand and the collapse, I should say. We can upload a custom SVG, or we can just turn it off, which is what I'm going to do in this instance. Okay, so lots and lots of control there. Now, I mentioned this already. We can specify the HTML tag being used here. So by default, it's set to a div, but I can say I would like it to be a H2. And as you can see, that text has now been updated and will display H2 tags in our HTML. After this, let's just minimize layout and expand interactions. I really hope this excites a lot of people because it definitely excited me. You'll see that we have a default state option. Now look at our accordion. As you can see, the first accordion is open. This is certainly what we're used to seeing with our traditional accordion widget, but we can now say we would like it to be collapsed. So no need for any custom CSS. Just one click of a mouse, okay, and we collapse the accordion item like so. So I really hope that pleases a lot of our users. Next up, we have the max items expanded option. So this basically says, okay, only one item can be open at one time. And as you can see, as I click through these, okay, the other one shuts. But if we would like people to be able to have multiple ones open, we're going to change it from one to multiple. And now when I click these, you can see that they all remain open. So lots and lots of control. You can even control the animation duration. It's currently set to 400 milliseconds, which is 0.4 of a second. But if you want it to be anything more or less, you can change that there. So let's just minimize these. So that's the configuration. Let's look at the styling. So in the styling tab, okay, again, just like with the taxonomy filters, we see what we expect to see here. Okay, we can control every element and aspect of this widget. So the space between the items, the distance from the content and the title. We can set the normal, hover, and active states for the background. We can add a border, or we can remove a border. We can add a border radius. We can amend the padding. We can then do all the same for the header. So with the header, we can set the typography. That's a little bit big. Let's set it to accent. We can then set the normal, hover, and active states. So this is the color. So we'll go for this color, the secondary, and the secondary. And then as you can see, as I hover over those, we have the color change like so. We don't have an icon switched on, but if we did, okay, this is where we would amend the size of the icon, the spacing between the icon and the text, and then also the normal, hover, and active state color states of that icon. And then finally, we have controls for the content. Now this tab here, it controls all of our accordion items, okay? But do remember, okay, the accordion items are using their own containers. So if you have an individual case where you need a specific accordion item to have completely different padding, for example, that's really easy to do, okay? You can set the default here in the content, and actually that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say I'd like 30 pixels of padding on the top and the bottom, and this is applied to each accordion item. I'm actually going to remove the border there as well. But for example, if I wanted even more padding on just this first item, I can just select the container and make those adjustments on an individual basis, which is really great. That's the great thing about using containers in all of these nested widgets. So I think we just need to remove a little bit of padding from the title. So I'm going to do that now. We do need some padding on the top and bottom though. Oh, I've done left and right. Of course I have, just bear with me. There we go. Now we're ready to start adding our info into each Accordion item. So let's open up the shipping and delivery one first of all. We can get rid of this title because we know that our Accordion title is using a H2. And then we can just drag in our text like so. And now if we minimize that and open up the returns and exchanges, again, we'll delete the title, but just drag in the text like this. And if I just minimize the panel, okay, you can now see we've got a super neat and tidy list here, okay, which is our Accordion. And if the user wants to view the shipping and delivery info, they can just click it like so. The same is true for returns and exchanges. And now if we build out our book of viewing option here, I'm going to drop in 2 containers so that we've got 2 columns. The first one, I'm going to add some text like this. I'm also going to add a Google map. And in this right-hand column, I'm going to add a contact form so the user can fill in their details and request a viewing. This does need some padding though. Okay, so let's just add a little bit there. And let's hide the panel. And then as you can see, our third Accordion item, not only is it using a 2-column layout, so we have 2 containers side by side, we've got multiple widgets within that Accordion item, and it works beautifully. So there we go. That concludes our demonstration for the Accordion. I'm going to just save this page and head back to the WordPress dashboard. And let's line up our next demonstration. So next up, we are going to take a look. Oh, just jump back into the dashboard. So next up, we're going to take a look at the enhanced styling capabilities in the carousel and the loop carousel. Now, the carousel and the loop carousel widgets have undergone a really nice upgrade. And we can now offset our sliders so that part of the sliders are hidden by the edges of the screen, if that's how you would like to display it, or obviously they could be positioned, say, in the center of the screen. I really like the effect of all the way to the edge, and that's what my demonstration is going to be today. But we also now have extensive control over the positioning and the styling of both the navigation and the pagination settings. So without further ado, let's just jump into a page and see what this is all about. I think it's this page. I'm just going to share my whole screen again. Page, and this is a really nice looking page, okay, but I want to add a carousel in here. And it's important to note that everything that I demonstrate here is true for the carousel widget and also the loop carousel widget. The demonstration that I'm going to provide today is using the carousel widget. I just wanted to provide just a really simple example that doesn't get too complex so that everybody understands exactly what we can do now with this. And I'm just going to add in a blank container first of all, and then just give it some space. Now in that container, let's drop in the carousel widget. And again, just one more time, everything we do here with the carousel widget can also be applied to the loop carousel as well. So let's drop in the carousel widget. And by default, we see our 3 columns here. We're going to add a 4th one, which we're going to call slide 4. And then in each of these, we're going to add an image. And we're just going to select some of our product images, okay? So super simple. We'll just set the width to 100%, and then we'll paste in this image and update. Do the same for the 3rd slide. And the same for the 4th slide. So if I hide the panels, as you can see, we just have a super simple carousel, okay, that is made up of 4 items like this. It's got pagination as well, which we'll get to shortly. I do just want to make this container full width, which is something I forgot to do. My apologies. And as you can see, it goes all the way to the edges of the screen like so. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is under settings, this new offset slides option. Now, it's very important to note that the offset feature will not show in the Elementor editor. Okay, we need to be on the front end of our website to see these changes. Okay, so don't worry that you don't see anything really happening here. But it's super simple to wrap your head around. Okay, we're quite simply going to turn this on. And as you can see in the drop down, we can apply the offset to both sides, the left side or just the right side. And we're going to apply it to both. And the default that it gives us is 80. So this is 80 pixels. Let's make it a little bit more. Let's go 120. And now if I publish and preview my changes, any second now, here we go, and scroll down. Okay, so we see our loop carousel. Our carousel. We're not using the loop carousel, but we have like these partial images on the side, and we can scroll through using the arrows. We can drag as normal. We can use the pagination, but every time one of the slides changes, okay, we just see the edge of the next one. And this is a great visual clue for anybody visiting your website that there's more to see. So I highly encourage you to test this out with your designs. And yeah, let us know how it goes. So a really, really helpful feature there when it comes to building your carousels or your loop carousels. Just checking in with Nicholas. You can't see my drop-down options in the editor. That's very unfortunate. I'll try and explain as much as possible when I click one of the drop-downs. I apologize if you can't see those. But let's move on. So that's the offset covered. Let's now take a look at our new navigation options. And actually what I'm going to do first of all is just amend the styles here, because these are kind of hard to see. So with the carousel widget selected, okay, I'm going to open up the style tab and then the navigation, and let's make them a bit bigger. First of all, let's make them even bigger than that. And let's give them a darker color like this. Okay, that's much better. So we can actually see those in action. And let's do the same for the pagination. Let's make those, oh, that's way too big. A little bit bigger there. We can leave the colors. I think we can see that. Okay. All right. So back to the content tab. And I love this new feature. This is incredibly helpful. But if we go to our navigation tab, okay, and scroll down, you'll see a lot more options here now, which is awesome. We can obviously amend the icon if we would like to. We're going to leave these arrows just as they are for this demonstration. But it starts with the previous arrow. So it starts with the left-hand arrow. Okay, so we have controls for horizontal, first of all, and then we have controls for vertical. Now, by default, it's set to start, but we can tell Elementor we would like that arrow to be displayed in the center or at the end, like so. And I hope you can see that moving across. We can also fine tune. So if we would like it over on the start, but we just want it just a few pixels over, okay, we can use the slider, or we can manually enter an amount in the input field just here. And then the same is true for vertical. So it's set to center, so it will display in the center, but we can position the arrow at the top or the bottom. And again, we have those controls where we can really fine tune where the navigation arrow is displayed. And then the same is true for the next arrow. So we have the exact same control. So we can control horizontal or vertical. Now, something that I've certainly done before is I've needed the navigation arrows in the bottom right-hand corner. So how would we achieve that with these new controls? So let's do the previous arrow first. So the first thing I do is I set it to end. I then set it to end on the vertical, which it already is. I'm going to set these to 0 just for now. And then with the next arrow, it's already set to end on the horizontal, but we need it to be end on the vertical as well. And these are set to 0. We've obviously got a crossover because we've told Elementor that we would like these to be in the same position. So this is where the fine tuning really comes in handy. So we'll work on the previous arrow first of all. Okay, and we're going to want to apply a minus here. So let's just increase this, say, I think maybe like 50 pixels. We also want to bring it up slightly. So let's just bring it up minus 30 pixels like this. And now we'll do the same with the next arrow. So actually we'll leave the horizontal at 0 because this is in a great position, but we do need to apply minus there. And if I minimize the panel, you can see that our navigation arrows are now sitting in the bottom right-hand corner. So let's now move on to the pagination. So if we open up the pagination, okay, you can see that we've got it set to dots at the moment. And if we jump over into our style tab, oh, here we are. Sorry, no, bear with me. Okay, so here we go in our style tab. And here we are. I'm getting lost. We have our usual pagination settings, which we've already kind of amended slightly. Okay. But what we can do is we can set a custom position. Okay. So we can switch this on. And when we do so, okay, we see some very familiar controls like we just saw on the arrows. Now everything is set to what we would expect to see. So horizontally, it's in the center, vertically, it's set to the bottom. But if we would like these to be displayed on the left-hand side, for example, we would say start, and then we can amend the fine-tuning controls like so. And then we can also amend them vertically as well. So if we wanted them to be displayed in the center here for whatever reason, we can do that just like that. So lots and lots of controls when it comes to pagination. And navigation arrows there as well as the offset. So this is our demo complete for the loop carousel, so the carousel and the loop carousel extensions. So next up, we are going to move on to the Elementor AI images improvements. So there's obviously been a huge effort to push AI in Elementor to make everybody's lives much, much easier. And the next phase has added in 2 very helpful additions. We can now remove a background from an image, and we can also replace a background in an image. So let's see how that works. And I'm going to stay in the same page here. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to add a new container. Let's give this some breathing room. And now I'm going to add in an image like so. And let's choose one from our library. I think I've got a pretty good one to use. Yeah, this one. So this is great because this now means that if you were previously using Photoshop or Canva to remove backgrounds from images, you can actually just do it within the Elementor editor now, which is fantastic. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. So this is our image. Okay, this is just one of the stock images used on this store. But as you can see, it's got a background, and I would like this to be transparent for whatever reason. So how do we achieve that? Well, if we go to the Content tab and then choose the Edit with AI option, okay, you'll now see 2 new options here. And the first one is the one that we're going to use, and it's Remove Background. So if I select this and then select Remove Background, we'll just wait a few seconds. And then as you can see, really, really quickly, it's removed the background, and it's now made this a transparent PNG file. So we could use it as is. So I could say use image, and it's going to save that. And now it's added it. It hasn't added it. It's just replaced the original image that was there. And I just want to show you that if I go to the media library, this is our new image. And if I scroll down, this is our original image. So we haven't lost our original image. Okay, it has created a new one, which is a transparent image now. So we can now use that for whatever reason we want to use it in, or we can carry on. So if we go to Edit with AI, we can now give this a new background. So I haven't played around with this too much, so this is going to be very experimental, but let's think of something simple first of all. So let's say orange background. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to know to just apply the color. In fact, let's keep this simple, red background, and let's see what it does. We're going to try a few different options here on creating a new background for these plants. And there we go. It's done a reasonably good job at adding a red background there. There's a little bit of work that needs to be done here, but let's carry on. So let's press the edit button and come. Oh, actually, let's come out of here. Leave. There we go. Let's go back into AI and replace background. Let's do something really wacky. So let's say space background. And I'm not just going to say space background. I'm going to actually get Elementor AI to give me a much better prompt because I'm terrible at writing them. I'm lazy at prompt writing. So here we go, a majestic space background showing an interstellar space of galaxies, etc., etc. So let's see what it does here. It's not a very fitting theme for this website, I know, but I just wanted to demonstrate how quickly and easily you can add your own custom backgrounds here. I wouldn't describe that as a space background personally. I've definitely prompted space background before and had a better result. Let's try something new. See what Elementor AI comes up with. I think we can get rid of this and replace. Let's see what the AI comes up with. There we go. Much more fitting background for the space prompt that we entered earlier. So let's say we're really happy with this. We're going to add this to our page. And again, this is just for demonstration purposes only. This doesn't fit in at all with the theme of our website, but I just want to show you one more time. There we go. So let's delete this and we'll save our changes to this page. Okay, and then we'll move on to the final part of today's demonstration, where we're going to talk about the updates to the experiments or features area. So I'm just going to open up that section here. So under Elementor and settings, let's go to features. Okay. I just realized I'm not sharing my whole screen, so let me just change that now so you guys can see everything that I'm talking about. So with Elementor 3.15, the following features will be activated by default. So this is very important to take note of. The first one, I'm going to scroll down, is the optimized DOM output. So this reduces the number of wrapper elements in the HTML generated by Elementor. A really, really important thing to say here is that if you're running Elementor 3.0 or below, you may experience issues with this. So I highly recommend that you update Elementor as quickly as possible, certainly before this release comes around, okay? You shouldn't really be running a version of 3.0 or less. Always keep Elementor up to date for security reasons mainly. But optimized DOM output will be switched on by default. The next one is the improved asset loading. Again, this will be switched on by default from 3.15 onwards. This loads less code, which speeds up your website. Okay, so that can only ever be a good thing. So definitely something that should be switched on already. And the next one, which we don't see here, is the global style guide. Okay, this allows you to preview all of your global styles and make instant changes to global colors and fonts in a really, really helpful visual way. So this will be turned on by default. And the next one, which we see at the bottom here, is the page transitions. Okay, and this allows you to add entrance and exit animations to your page. And then finally, the last thing, if I scroll back up, is this part here, the landing pages. Okay, this will actually be disabled by default, okay, for any new websites from 3.15 onwards. Okay, but you can obviously come in here and turn it on if that is a feature that you would like to use. If you are currently using that feature, you do not need to worry. It will remain switched on. Okay, it's only for new installations. And that concludes our demonstration. I'm just going to remove my screen of Elementor Beta 3.15. So your feedback when using these beta versions is incredibly valuable, not only just for us, but also the entire Elementor community. So please head on over to the official GitHub post and provide as much feedback as you can to help build a better Elementor. And you'll find the link for that in the description of this video. But thank you for watching and for now, and I'll see you all next time. Bye now.